Hey everybody, I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Matt Dennion.
Hey everybody, glad to be back here again. We have a very, I think, exciting topic to talk to you about today.
Yeah, because when it comes to kaiju, it's like you're the go-to guy.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I know Jeremy Robinson was probably busy, right? So I was like, way farther down the list, but I'm happy to be here.
Uh-oh, you found out.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay, man. You got to go with the best. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, when you can't get the best, you get good enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like the old Krusty the Clown brand. If it's not just good, it's good enough.
It's like I said to my wife, it's me or nobody, so.
It's kind of funny. I had that conversation with my girlfriend recently where it's like, I don't know what standards you had before, but they have clearly dropped off.
Oh, yes. Yeah, my wife's have definitely, too. Not that I don't love her, but, she says she could do better, but here I am. So here I am for you guys, too, to talk about a fun thing.
And that fun thing is actually something you came up with because I had actually asked Matt to join, if you guys remember the Acts of Vengeance video I did with Manos a little while ago. It's a, hey, do you want to join? You're like, I don't know. It's like, I got another idea. That was like, let's do that idea. So here we are. And Matt, this was your idea, so I'm going to let you take the lead.
Sure. So the idea was, we know that back in July of last year, Marvel Comics announced that they would be doing an official crossover with their heroes at the very least, and the Ultraman line of heroes. So they put out a piece of still art that showed us Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and then Ultraman, Ultra 7, and I believe it was Ultraman Taro on it with one of the monsters from the Ultraman series. So one thing that I was hoping that Marvel would do is to incorporate some of the classic kaiju that they have in their store of comics. Like, for instance, in the 1950s, before Marvel was known for being superheroes, they did a ton of comics with kaiju in them. Things like Monsters on the Prowl and Journey into Mystery, and you can kind of go down the list on these tales that have like these one-shot monsters, some of which would appear in the superhero comics as time went on. But I think, coming up with this idea, one thing that I looked at was when Godzilla was in Marvel Comics, and then when Godzilla recently did the Power Rangers crossover. So, as an example, when Godzilla was in Marvel Comics in the 1970s, even before I was born, but going post hoc here, they never took the opportunity to take any of those monsters that they had and have them take on Godzilla. They did make some new ones that were pretty cool, and you did get to see Godzilla go against like the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, but they did miss out on some pretty good opportunities to have Godzilla cross over with some of their classic monsters. Now, more recently, and I think this is why we're seeing the Ultraman Marvel crossover, was a huge success of the Godzilla Power Rangers crossover, which I believe you read as well at this point, correct?
Yeah, I own that. It's awesome, and I guarantee you that's why they did it.
Yeah, I think so. And one thing that they did very well in there is, like, as kids, we all wanted to see, like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, Godzilla fought Godor, or we got to see the Megazord take on Gigan, and they certainly gave us a lot of those type of matchups that we would like to see in that comic, which made it fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you agree, right? I would hope.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun ride. It's definitely like it was definitely like it had no plot. It had no plot other than let's just throw all the toys in the toy box together.
Right. And I think the Marvel one will have a plot, and I think that's clearly why they're focusing on their heroes. So I don't want it to sound like, as we're recording this episode, that we think there shouldn't be Marvel heroes in it, or they shouldn't be the focus. Just going off that poster, Captain Marvel makes a lot of sense to interact with the Ultraman because, she's also a character with cosmic powers who does a lot in space and is kind of on a level that's closer to them. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Iron Man, obviously, because I'm sure hoping we all see a giant Iron Man mech, standing side by side with Ultraman. That would be pretty awesome. And Spider-Man, he's like the everyman, and he's the Marvel poster boy, obviously. You couldn't do a crossover of that magnitude without focusing on Spider-Man.
I'm gonna have a non sequitur real quick. But how cool would it have been? Because Marvel can do this; they do own the rights to it. Ultraman crossing over with Tokusatsu Spider-Man.
Yes, as I was making this list of characters we're going to talk about, and a quick shout out, if I can, Tyler, to I run a comic book club at the Burlington County Special Services School. Every Friday we do comic club, and the students in the club help me kind of pare down this list today, going through a list of Marvel monsters. So thanks to them for that. But yes, we did discuss the Tokusatsu Spider-Man. I think the only drawback, even though it would be super cool, would be then it's more of a Marvel multiverse story and not a Marvel universe story. So I don't know that they would jam it in there, but yes, it would be so awesome to see Leo Pardon and Yamashiro Spider-Man standing with Ultraman would be extremely awesome. To answer that question.
Like that idea of like having what's his name, Professor Monster teaming up with like Zeton or Baltan.
Yes.
God, that'd be so cool. And they can do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, they do, but I think they don't even need to sign off with Toei.
No, I don't believe so. I think that they now totally own that character. The rights, and listen, definitely double check me on this, but I believe that they can use that, but not use the Shogun Warriors, which is kind of like the trade-off they had made at the time. But it's still super cool.
Yeah. I don't think they can. Like, that was the exchange where we can use Tokusatsu Spider-Man, but we'll give you Shogun Warriors back.
Correct. And although I think we can look forward to seeing Tokusatsu Spider-Man in Into the Spider-Verse this summer, hopefully. So fingers crossed on that. But back to the point at hand. So I just I shared a list with you of some of the more prominent Marvel kaiju, not just from the 50s, but up through today. And I was hoping we could discuss them, see if you think like, yeah, it'd be cool. And then what I'm thinking about this crossover isn't necessarily like, excuse me, these characters playing a big role, but if you remember, like about 15 years ago, maybe even before that, I thought there was a really cool issue of they did one shots of their kaiju things, and one was Monsters on the Prowl, where they had like Hulk, Thing, the Beast from X-Men, and Giant Man team up just to fight a bunch of Marvel monsters. I could see maybe like a one-off like that in this Ultraman series, where like the Ultraman come and like the Mole Man is attacking, and he's got a lot of these monsters around, and the Ultraman have to kind of fight them off as like a neat thing to see.
Yeah,
would be how I can envision this going down.
Yeah, or even having some of the Ultra monsters fighting them.
Yes, would be cool too. And some of these monsters are a bit more heroic, so I think that would be neat if they had like the Kid Kaiju character call some of these monsters back up to help fight off the Ultra monsters. Would be really neat too.
Yeah, or do like an Ultra Galaxy thing where he can control some of the Ultra monsters.
Yeah, any one of those scenarios is fun. I don't think this is going to be fantastic storytelling. I think it's like you said with the Power Rangers situation, where it's just kind of like not much of a plot in the monster aspect of it, but just fun to see.
Yeah. So, you want to get started with this?
Sure. So the first one I was thinking, and give me your thoughts. You think could be a fit, cannot be a fit, would be American Kaiju, the Todd Ziller character, fairly new character from like the past 10 years or so. And, his deal is they just kind of took things like the super soldier serum, gamma radiation, the Kurt Connors formula, PIM particles, put them all into this guy named Todd Ziller, which is hilarious because you might sometimes hear like the Godzilla in translations and stuff. And he basically turns into what could almost be looked at as like the legendary Anguirus if they were to make one, except he's got like a flag on his head and across his stomach. But was a really fun character in the Planet of the Symbiotes. He had a very cool issue where he fought like all these symbiote dragons. And
really one turned into Ghidorah.
One turned into Ghidorah, exactly. Yes, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that one?
I really like that one. I think American Kaiju is a really cool monster. I think he's a lot of fun, and I think it would be like how you could do that story is that like Ultraman is people are like scared of him because in the Marvel comics it's like we don't know if we can trust this guy or not. So when he arrives on U.S. soil and is like fighting a monster and it causes some damage, U.S. government just dispatches the American Kaiju to deal with him.
Yes, because he's also like got a near human level intelligence after changing, sort of like the Kurt Connors lizard, in that range, just much, much bigger. So yes, I could totally see like the American government, like S.H.I.E.L.D. or SWORD or somebody, sending him out there to be like, hey, those Ultramen caused some collateral damage, let's take them out, type of thing. But I definitely think he could fit into the story well.
Yeah. So, and this is the next one is the big one. I think we all agree that this is the big one. Fin Fang Foom. Because it was a very missed opportunity to have Godzilla fight Fin Fang Foom back in the 70s.
Yes, yeah, maybe the biggest missed opportunity, right? I mean, you still see fan art all the time. To me, they got to at least do one page with Fin Fang Foom in this crossover, right? Or they're majorly missing out. He also, to me, really also fits that Ultraman-esque kind of monster, because he's much more intelligent than a typical kaiju. He's not just a mindless dragon, right? He's actually an alien who's intelligent, which many of the Ultraman monsters are.
Yeah. I think it would be a lot of fun, and I think it would be kind of cool because Fin Fang Foom always has like power plays of his own. So
yes.
So I think it'd be kind of cool, like maybe he tries to like unite with the Ultra Monsters. Like maybe try to get some under his like hey, you guys come work for me. I'm the real king of the monsters. It'd be fun to see like Gomora being like, no, asshole.
Yes.
You are not the king of the monsters, but you're not. That's not how you talk to the prince of monsters.
Right, and in the storyline, especially going back to his first appearances, he is a vanguard of an alien monster invasion trying to take over Earth, and that would be, I think even before Ultraman came out, that was his concept. So he could almost be one of the main villains in the story, or he has been portrayed as a hero before too. I think in this case, I'd rather see him as a villain, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think he'd be a lot of fun, and again, it'd be such a missed opportunity to not have, at least of all the monsters, if you're going to have any monsters in this upcoming Ultraman Marvel crossover, you need to have Fin Fang Foom, at least him. Of all of them, just have him.
I would agree. You'd be the runaway pick to, if you're only going to pick one, Fin Fang Foom has got to be it. Like you said, we missed that opportunity with the Marvel Godzilla. I don't know why. It was a terribly missed opportunity, but gotta put him in here, at least in a panel. We got him in like the Justice League crossover way back in the day, Justice League Avengers. So hopefully he's high on their list.
Yeah. So next up we have Fredzilla, which.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. That one's a little hard to explain.
Yeah. So people might know Fredzilla better from the Disney movie Big Hero 6, where he was a guy sort of like in a costume that looked like a monster. In the comic book of Big Hero 6, he is a guy who actually turns into a kaiju, which is really neat. In fact, he looks not unlike Titanosaurus. Do you think, like in the comic book version?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a psychic projection of himself that turns into this monster, but it's not like opaque for the most part. It's pretty solid and can be used to really kick some butt. He also maintains a human level of intelligence. I would think this would be a case where he's not fighting against the Ultras, but helping them against some of their monsters in that case. And he's located in Japan, so I think it'd be a disservice not to have Ultraman appear in Japan at some point in this crossover, right? Where some of the Ultras.
Yeah, with the Marvel Big Hero 6, but I don't know if they can use them, because I heard this rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard somewhere that Disney's forbidden Marvel to use the Big Hero 6 because they're now Disney characters.
Yeah, I am not sure about that, but yeah, they have kind of been persona non grata in the comics, especially their original iterations, which is much different from the Disney versions. And I'm not knocking a Disney movie; I actually quite enjoy it, for what it is.
Yeah.
But the comic version is much more adult oriented, much more serious. So I don't know that we would see Fredzilla. He also does basically serve a similar role to American Kaiju in this case, right? Like the guy who turns into a kaiju.
Yeah.
So I think between the two, that American Kaiju might be more likely. I just think a Big Hero 6 cameo at least would be cool because of the Japanese connection.
Yeah. Yeah, so Fredzilla would be really cool. I just feel like Disney, for some reason, because we can't have two of the same thing.
Right.
And I don't get why, it was the same. It's like it's one of those legal things that just bothers me. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. But from what I understand, like that's the thing I've heard is that Disney said, "Hey, Marvel, you can't do Big Hero 6 because it might confuse the audience why they're different from the TV show. I mean, yeah, from the movie and the TV show."
Yeah, in particular, given the demographic that the movie and the TV show are geared towards, I can see why you wouldn't necessarily want a kid picking up the Big Hero 6 comic because of the more adult themes in it. It's a great comic, though, if you get the chance. And Fred Zoll is a fantastic character, super fun. But yeah, I would say his chances are slim to not appearing in this. I would say the only small thing, again, is the Japanese connection. Might keep him a shot, but unfortunately, I think slim to none, but he's a fan pick for me. So,
yeah.
You know.
So we got a twofer with the next one is Giganto 1 and 2.
Yes, so the interesting part here is because when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee started churning out these monsters, they forgot that between issue 1 and 4 of the Fantastic Four, they made 2 different monsters with the same name. So they just kind of still stands to this day. The first Giganto, and this one I think is maybe one of Marvel's more well-known monsters, even though people might not know her name because she is in fact a female or know who she is. But she is the monster who graces the cover of Fantastic Four #1. So one of the biggest comics in Marvel's history.
Yeah. For those who are trying to get reference, that's the monster that's like coming out of the ground and holding Sue and the other Fantastic Four like surrounding the team, surrounding it. It's that monster.
Yes, she is also the primary weapon of the Mole Man, who would make a lot of sense as a villain potentially in an Ultraman crossover. Like, the Mole Man controls Monster Island in Marvel, which I believe predates Toa's Monster Island even, and has thrall over quite a few of these monsters. But Giganto, this version, Giganto 1, is kind of his main bruiser. Has a cool design too, with like the big claws and very bulky body. So I think would look neat, and you could certainly have some fun, with covers with her. Like I can imagine, if they had shrunken down Ultraman, redoing the Fantastic Four #1 cover with different versions of Ultraman in place of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So that would be, I think that would be a lot of fun. Maybe get both Gigantos and have that moment where Ultraman's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And for reference, the second Giganto appeared in Fantastic Four #4, and this one I think super long shot, but near and dear to my heart because this Giganto is basically a sperm whale with arms and legs that is Neymar's mount, sort of. You don't see him too much anymore.
Actually, the last time I saw a Giganto, now that you mention it, because now it's like, it's the whale. He was actually featured in the 3rd Maestro miniseries.
Oh, was he? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So cool. Yeah, glad to see Giganto getting some love. And Giganto bears a similar resemblance to one of my monsters in my Chimera series, where I use the sperm whale as a base and build on a little more. So a bit of a personal pick, personal bias in my opinion here. However, I will say that if something to the extent of an alien invasion is going on with Ultraman coming down, Namor might not take too kindly to that. So I could see a scene or a part of the story thread where he comes off pissed off as always and is riding this version, the Giganto 2, into battle against the Ultraman.
Yeah. I would actually love to see a tag team of the 2 Gigantos, because Mole Man and Namor do team up sometimes.
Yes,
so you can have both of the Gigantos coming in, and it's a tag team between Ultraman and Ultra 7 against the 2 of them.
And I think that's perfectly where Spider-Man would fit in for commentary. Really? Really? Both the same name type of deal? Drop in some Spider-Man cracks.
That moment was were you guys just not original, or did you guys... that would be a great meta joke where Spider-Man says, did you guys both have Giganto? And he's like, did you name them both Giganto? And Namor and Mole Man are like, we didn't know... Mole Man says, I forgot that Namor had a monster named Giganto.
Yes, right. Something along those lines. It would be a fun opportunity for a joke. Again, taking two of their, more well-known but slightly underappreciated, particularly their first Giganto, Fantastic Four #1 cover is pretty iconic. So I do think that getting that Giganto some representation would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some of the more obscure monsters in a minute, but still fun. However, this next one I think can still work. You and I talked off before recording about this, but there is a version that might work here. So the next one that we were going to talk about was the Marvel Godzilla. So, Marvel did have that run in the 1970s with Godzilla. Now, clearly, they cannot use that version. That would not work. They don't have the ability to do so. However, there is the version of Godzilla that was mutated and appeared later in 1980s comics, where he has like two horns and a frill, and his spikes have kind of been fused together. That appeared quite a few times. I do not think this character should play a huge role, but a cameo would be nice as a reference to the Marvel Godzilla. I'm gonna send you a link real quick just so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, now it's like cool horns, like, oh, that monster, yeah.
Yes.
It would actually be like a funny moment where it'll actually be like the Jiris moment.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, like having that monster next to Jiris and maybe even Golems from Ultra Q would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Like it's just one scene where the three Ultras are fighting them, or something along those lines. It'd be like another really neat in joke. I don't think they ever named that second version of Godzilla because they just wanted people to keep thinking it was Godzilla. But that would be pretty neat, right? Yeah,
that'd be a really fun scene where like Marvel Godzilla, quote unquote, Jiris and Gomas are like it's the Spider-Man meme where they all look at each other like, who are you?
Exactly.
And they're all just looking at each other like, who are you?
Yeah.
And then Ultraman you just hear swatch and it blasts all of them in the face.
Exactly right. It's not the type of thing I think would work for like an ongoing battle or a key story point, but it would be a neat joke to have in at least a panel or two, right?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Real quick, I'm gonna split off from this real quick because there is a monster that I was reminded of, but I don't think you had it on the list.
Sure, go ahead.
And I can't think of the name, but maybe if I describe it, you'll remember. There's this in the Spider-Man comics. There's an alien monster that's like a lizard gorilla kind of monster that Kraven raised in the Savage Land, and it keeps coming back every so often. He showed up recently in Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run. I forget its name.
I'm looking at it right now. It's not ringing a bell. I'm not sure which one we're talking about here.
He's like reddish orange.
Yeah, I can like kind of see it, but I don't know the character's name. But it would be neat because Kraven's a great character in my opinion.
Yeah. But basically, if anyone remembers, there was in early Spider-Man comics a story arc where Kraven was in the Savage Land. He was just chilling in the Savage Land, and he found an alien spacecraft, and in it was an alien that was kind of like apparently it was supposed to be based off the Ymir alien from 20 Million Miles to Earth, because it started out as a little tiny creature, but as it breathed more oxygen, it grew bigger.
His name is Gog.
Gog, that's it.
Yes. Yep. Looks like he did first appearance. That's good knowledge on your part. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Actually, I'm looking at the pictures here now. That would be a neat one. I was unaware of this character, but that would be a very cool one. Plus, again, having Kraven would be a neat story because he's a hunter. He would certainly want to hunt some of the monsters that might come with Ultraman. So if this character was like, working alongside him, I could see that. Or perhaps he's hunting Ultraman himself.
Yeah, like that moment where you can have a moment where Spider-Man's like, Kraven, are you serious? You're way too tiny for this. You are way too small for this ride, kid. And he's like, that's why I brought the hunting dog. And God just comes lumbering out.
That would be pretty cool. I would definitely be in for that.
Yeah, I can't I literally forgot that name. Like,
I saw it, but I kept thinking. I just wrote the Kaiju Faithful book, and I used Magog and Gog in there from Hindu mythology. So I was thinking that I know Magog is a character in Thor, and I was thinking this was his father, but it's a different character, obviously. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. But getting back on, there's a lot of G names in Marvel Monsters.
Yes, there certainly are, especially from back in the day. So one of the next ones I was thinking about is one of the very first ones, which is Goon, who would become kind of a a joke character coming forward. And in this instance, and this is interesting because it'll be tied into another character we talk about later. In the original 1950s Marvel Comics, Goom, and you might have seen before, he looks almost like the body of a giant flying squirrel, just without hair, and like a big goofy head with two big teeth. Came from Planet X, and basically just wanted to take over humanity, even though the majority of his people are peaceful. And he's only stopped when other people from his planet come and kind of take him away, like arrest him, the police basically. But I always thought that this character and another G character, we can just skip to kind of at the same time. And Groot is also from Planet X, the original Marvel Comics, and was a kaiju at first. I always thought it was a missed opportunity in the Godzilla series not to have an invasion from Planet X, a la Invasion of the Astro Monster, and have Godzilla fight these Planet X monsters as like a homage to Astro.
Yeah.
But Groot obviously has gone on to incredible popularity since then. Goom, not so much.
Yeah. Goom's actually like treated like, he's kind of treated like Zim from Invader Zim now.
Yes, that's a good analogy.
But I kind of imagine, like, if you were to pair him with any creature or character in this crossover, it would be Pigmon.
Yes, I could totally see that, actually. Yes, like a Pigmon. Yes, he would totally fit there. He does also fit the mold of an Ultraman monster, where he's, more intelligent. He's coming to invade from another planet. He's got a real goofy design. So, like, well, he's not somebody people think of typically from in Marvel monsters, like a Fin Fang Foom or somebody. He's he fits the Ultraman mold, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think he definitely fits that Ultraman mold. And I think it would be a lot of fun to see, like, Goom just be like, "It is I, tremble before the might of," and he just gets punched in the face immediately.
Yeah, exactly, right. I don't think any of these characters, none of these, some we're coming across now, are going to, for a little bit, be major characters. But yeah, I think that would be funny. Again, a nice little joke picture there type of thing. And again, Spider-Man narrating the battle or laying out one-liners as these things go would be hilarious.
Yeah. I would even say, like, it would be a lot of fun to have a moment with, like, some of these monsters. And I actually got another creature I want to throw in that you're classed in. The Awesome Android.
The Awesome Android would be a pretty cool one, actually. I do know of him, but go ahead and tell, because you know more than I do about him.
The Awesome Android was like the super adaptor, like the like a Mazo from DC Comics, but he was made by the Mad Thinker.
Yes.
And they do make him, like, they do different size, and he does have a name, Andy. But I think he would be a lot of fun to have him in here, and to see him like fighting or paired up with like King Joe or Crazy Gon or something. Because we haven't seen any of the mech kaiju from Ultraman yet, I don't think, in the comics.
No, I do not believe so. That would be really cool, actually. He's still a little too small, so he didn't make my list, but Dragon Man kind of would have been neat, too, as like a robot who's, pretty tough and can mix it up a bit. But I don't think he's not kaiju-sized.
Yeah. So next one is Gorgilla, which I remember the big room, because I remember, like, they wanted to do Kong. It was like, well, we can't do Kong. We can make our own.
Yeah, which is exactly what they did. So Gorgilla is basically their version of Kong in his first appearance. He's in a lost world, fighting dinosaurs. He's more like the legendary or Toho Kong than anything, where he's typically upright like a Sasquatch. He does have a long tail, like a monkey. However, in later iterations, the character would appear. He is able to talk, where he's just basically described as almost like a missing link, between a man and ape, perhaps. So I thought it might be interesting to see a kaiju that can talk kind of in the mix too. In this story, and he's one of characters like Fin Fang Foom and Goom, actually, who they would do kind of joke stories where Reed Richards had like shrunken them down and given them jobs in the Baxter Building, like as cooks or window cleaners. So would it be too hard to like have him get resized up to help out in this situation?
Yeah. So following that, you have Gorkill on the list.
Yes, you familiar with Gorkill at all?
Barely.
It's okay for that. So this is an interesting one, and when we were reviewing the characters, this is actually one of the ones that my students at first dismissed, but then were like, wait, this would be a really great idea for an Ultraman crossover. So Gorkill's another 1950s monster from old-time Marvel, and his deal is he's a living cloud of sentient gas, and he kind of lands on Earth and is able to merge with either water or gases on Earth, and then he starts attacking people after he's been kind of bonded, but because he does not have a solid form, he is difficult to attack. He's really more of a horror monster than the typical sci-fi monster that most of the Marvel 1950s were. But this one could be interesting because the rest of the other monsters are more kind of like, Ultraman just kind of blows them up or punches them into submission. In this case, though, they'd have to be more creative with how they deal with the situation.
Yeah. I think that does sound really cool. Gorkill was one of the monsters I was not very familiar with, but that does sound really cool because we don't get a lot of gaseous monsters.
Right. In this case, I think I'd like to see him just because he is different from the rest of the crew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as one that could be a possibility. So we would see. The next one, I'd be surprised if he doesn't appear, honestly. And we mentioned it before, but Groot.
Yeah, Groot. And Hulk. I guess we could talk about them both because they're that.
Sure.
Yeah, so right. Groot and Hulk, I think it would be a disservice to not have them here. And Groot is now kaiju size again in the comics.
Yes, which he was originally. So Groot would totally fit in. Given the popularity of Groot, I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it, like I said. And like you said, Hulk too would be a disservice. Arguably, the biggest thing that Marvel missed out on, and I just went to say it, was having Hulk and Godzilla fight because of the similarities between the two. You can write an entire book about it. So I would hope that they make up for that mistake from all those years ago by having Hulk show up and take on either the Ultraman or some of the Ultra monsters, or both. Like I could see a situation where maybe one of the Ultraman villains is able to, their monsters are getting their butts kicked, and they're like, yeah, but there's a monster here that you aren't ready for, Ultraman, and like, oh, damn, he got control of the Hulk, and then it's chicken things up to another level. Yeah,
definitely. And to see, like, if I was to pit any Ultraman against the Hulk, it'd probably be Taro.
Okay. Why is that? I don't disagree with you. I'm just wondering.
He's like one. If I remember right, because it's been a while since I've watched Taro. He's one of the more physically strongest.
Right. I think except for Ultra King and stuff.
Yeah, Ultra King, and I would also say Jack, but they can't do Jack because Jack in the Marvel comics was a mecha.
Oh, right. So I don't think that, but I mean Hulk. I think Groot and Hulk are highly likely, in my opinion. Do you agree? Or
yeah.
They also straddle the line between monster and hero, so
definitely. It'd be kind of fun to see some of Hulk's villains appear, like Abomination or
for sure.
Yeah, or the Missing Link or the Glob.
Yeah, any one of those would be fantastic. So I could definitely see that being a thing. The next one I think has a bit of an outside chance, and the next character we're talking about is It the Living Colossus. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's a kind of a cool character.
Yeah. It the Living Colossus is another classic monster from Marvel's time. It was definitely a monster that I think it also inspired, or was inspired by, and I think they had to be coy about it, from the creature from Beyond the Stars.
Yes, yeah. Although he's more akin to what our fans probably know as Daimajin, the statue that comes to life.
Yeah.
Where he's a giant stone statue that a person can project their consciousness into, but he's not just like a big, strong statue. He can also fly. He can also, if you break off one of his arms, he still has control over it and can attack you with the arm as like its own separate entity. In fact, when he fought the Hulk had to turn him into dust, and he was still attacking, and the Hulk had to do his clap to disperse it. But he's still able to reform. And then it's also the thing where the giant itself is not always inhabited by the same person. So it could be inhabited by a hero as well, or just a regular person. And in my opinion, I think it fits well because it's similar to Ultraman in that he's humanoid, he can fly, he can bond with a human. He's fought off invasions before. I like one of his best stories from the early days in the 50s and 60s. He teamed with Fin Fang Foom. First he fought Fin Fang Foom, and then they teamed up to fight off an invasion. of aliens. So I think he's not out of the realm of possibility to appear in the series if Marvel is going to, try to incorporate some of their monsters. What do you think?
I think that's a possibility. I do think that's. I think it has definitely the Living Colossus has a best chance. If not him, the Living Monolith, the X-Men villain.
Yes. Although speaking of X-Men,
Krakoa, which that one will be interesting because Krakoa is a living island now. He's the nation home of the X-Men. For how long, we don't know, because End of X is coming.
Right. But, again, for historical context, Krakoa was, we found out he's a mutant later, but when the original X-Men, like the Stan Lee created X-Men of, like, Angel and Cyclops and Beast went to investigate what they thought might be a mutant, Krakoa took them over, and that forced Professor X to bring in the X-Men that people are maybe more familiar with, like Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, that like second team. And this was the first character that they fought. And he is a living island. Like you said, since then he's become the home for the X-Men, correct?
Yeah. I'd actually like how I would do this is like maybe have the Ultra Monsters invade Krakoa, and like as a last ditch effort, they're like Krakoa just gets up and just starts fighting the Ultra Monsters in this invasion.
Exactly what I was thinking would happen, yes. They're invading the X-Men, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what is going on here? And, the island itself comes to life and attacks. Sort of like if, like the first time maybe that the Decepticons were attacking Metroplex, and it's like, wait a second, this thing's actually alive and coming to get us now.
Yeah. Just that moment where, like, you can have a moment where the X-Men are like, how do we fight these things? He's like, we don't got to... Wolverine's like, don't worry, bub. We got a built-in security system. And that's when, like, Krakoa just starts getting up.
Yes, yeah. And also... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And, like, it's also fun because there's a bit of retconned lore to X-Men where Apocalypse and Krakoa were allies together.
Oh, okay.
So you could have, like, Apocalypse is just standing on top of Krakoa's head and is like, now it is time to see who is the strongest. Yes,
that would be pretty cool. And he's got a great design. For like, especially look back at his appearance in Giant X-Men #1. It's kind of a terrifying design, so I'd like to see that. And a fight on Krakoa, and I'm stretching things here, but it lends itself to another neat opportunity where maybe the Living Colossus comes to help out, and you get a cool shot of Colossus and Colossus next to each other, fighting monsters again. It's like another joke of like, Marvel, can you stop double naming things? Would be kind of fun, I think.
Yeah. So our final two are going to be fun because one we have the Red Ronin and Tricephalus.
So the Red Ronin from first appeared, I believe, in the Godzilla comic series, but he's still able to be used for sure. I know we've seen him in things since Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
Has popped up. He's basically like your typical Shogun warrior, Pacific Rim, Power Rangers type of mech, where he's like a samurai that goes in battle. Heavily inspired my Steel Samurai character in my Atomic Rex series. Is Red Ronin is kind of like the inspiration for that, or homage, if you will. But I think a decent chance. I'm going to say for this guy. I'm going to say a decent chance. Again, Japanese connection, which would be pretty cool. He's a mech. He's totally owned by Marvel. What do you think?
I think he's got a good chance. It would be actually kind of fun to have one of the Ultraman supporting characters pilot him.
That would be pretty cool, actually. Like one of the science team members?
Yeah, one of the Science Patrol members. Like, the Science Patrol, or they're calling themselves the Ultra Guard in the comics, reveal, like, hey, we're dusting off this old mech back from the 70s that was used to fight monsters, and it's Red Ronin.
I think that'd be pretty awesome. And you can do a ton of fun things. The last one, I think, outside shot, he's basically just getting a mention, the Tricephalus monster, because he is a Mole Man monster and is the King Ghidorah stand-in.
Yeah.
Although he might predate King Ghidorah as like a three-headed winged dragon. From 1961. So he definitely does predate King Ghidorah in this case.
Yeah. I think there would be like a fun moment where like Tricephalus attacks and he's like, "It's King, not that monster."
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yes, and I'd give him an outside chance at a cameo because of the Mole Man. Like, yeah. I can definitely
assuming. I think the other thing we have to disclaim is that we don't know if Mole Man's going to be part of this story. We're just
no. we're just fan doing this.
Yeah.
To be honest, we don't know if any Marvel monsters will be a part of this story. This is just for fun, us kind of mentioning characters that we could see fitting in, and then I think as we've been going, we're also sort of mentioning if we think there's a realistic chance of it happening or not.
Yeah.
Some are just kind of for fun. So as I've been going down this list, Tyler, I'm thinking American Kaiju might have a chance of appearing.
Din Fang Foom, he has got to be in here.
Gotta be in it. I would put him as a #1 choice. I do not think Frightzilla has a good shot. I'd love it if he did. I don't think so.
Yeah.
The Gigantos, I'm not sure. I think if they were definitely going to be monsters, they can make it. What do you think?
I think if they are going to introduce monsters, at least one of them would appear. I think at least Mole Man's Giganto, if Mole Man and the Marvel monsters do show up. Because,
right.
Yeah. Because I feel like it'd be a disservice. Like, you didn't do that the first time with Godzilla, and you had all these monsters, so...
I also think that we know they like to do additional homage covers. Like I said, I could totally see different Ultraman in position to the Fantastic Four, at the very least in a homage cover, with Giganto holding up the Netflix-sized Ultraman. Do you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
Giganto 2, I think, like we said, maybe an outside shot of a cameo if Namor gets involved.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
The mutated Marvel Godzilla maybe is a joke, like we said.
Yeah. Like that moment where he sees Jiris and is like, eh?
Right. I'm going to say probably no on Goom. I don't see that necessarily happening. Corgilla, same type of thing. Maybe, because we never really get to take a Kong Ultraman thing, but I still kind of doubt it. Though I do think story-wise could be interesting. I think the Gore Kill could be very interesting, but it is extremely obscure. I would say unlikely. What do you think on those?
I think it's unlikely.
I think Groot and Hulk, I'm going to say more likely than not, like I did before, that they make an appearance in the story.
Yeah.
I mean, Groot in particular is from space. It would make total
And Guardians is popular.
Guardians is popular, right. There's a new movie coming out even, so that's definitely going to up the chances of them putting him in there. Hulk, always popular, would be a major missed opportunity. When you think Marvel Monsters, Hulk is the first one you think of, I would say, right?
Exactly.
I would put him up there with Fin Fang Foom in terms of a disservice if he doesn't appear.
Exactly, yeah.
It the Living Colossus, I think, is a bit of a stretch, but story-wise could be cool.
Yeah. And Krakoa does have a good shot because if it's obviously the X-Men might be involved in this, so
yes, yeah. So I'd say he's got a decent shot. I think Red Ronin has a decent shot too. It would be a nice nod to the Godzilla comic fans in the '70s that he's popping up again, and be an opportunity to not mention Godzilla, but cut it off halfway through. What do you think about that one?
I think that's a good one of Red Ronin. That would also be a great you have your moment of this is how we reference '70s Godzilla, and do something with that, and also give something to do for the Ultra Guard supporting characters.
Right. I would say the Tricephalus, a very outside shot. I don't see much of a chance for that one. Maybe a cameo if the Mole Man's involved.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, Coach. I do kind of like your suggestion of God, though, because we know Spider-Man's in here. So it gives Kraven about as decent chance it does for the X-Men of appearing, I'd say.
Yeah.
So that could be a fun opportunity. And now, having said this, they could give us no Marvel monsters at all.
That's the other thing that you have to take into account. This is all fun hearsay, but
yes,
there's a chance it might just be the Avengers.
Right. I'm still looking forward to. I still think it'd be fun, but I think it'd be a missed opportunity not to have some Marvel monster representation.
Yeah.
So that's what I had. Any other that I'm missing, Tyler, that you're thinking of that would be kind of cool to throw into the mix there? Or?
No, Gog and Living and Awesome Andy and
the Super Adaptoid, was that the one you said? Awesome Android. Sorry, Awesome Android.
Yeah, the Awesome Android and Living Monolith were my three.
Living Monolith's a good one too. And it would be really neat to see some of those. So hopefully We get that. I'm sure we're going to get some Ultraman monsters.
Yeah,
so,
and at the very least, I know he's not a monster, but can we have a fist fight between Ultraman and Giant Man?
Yes, good call. I thought about putting him on here, but I wasn't sure. But yes, I do think we need to see Giant Man in there for sure. He's an Avenger. He's well known due to the Ant-Man movies, so I definitely think there's a chance we get that. I'm also going to go out on a limb and say I think not a monster, more of a cosmic being. Galactus would be a cool villain for this series as a whole. In fact, I'd love to see it get to the point where Galactus is about to do his thing and Ultra King has to show up. So we got an Ultra King Galactus showdown. Might be something pretty epic. Yeah,
definitely that. There's a lot you can do, but we're overhyping, unfortunately. I feel like that's the...
We certainly are.
So you guys tell us in the comments below, what Marvel monsters would you like to see in this upcoming Ultraman Marvel crossover? Are you hoping for Marvel monsters? Do you think they'll even feature it? We don't even know. This will probably be 5-6 issues long. You've got to make the best of how much you can do.
Right. One issue. I'm just asking for one issue, guys. Marvel.
Yeah. Anyway, so Matt, thank you so much for joining us. If you're interested in anything of Matt's work, go on to Amazon or Raventail Press. Check out Atomic Rex. Check out Kaiju Faithful. He's got a ton of books.
Yeah, I've got I think I'm up to 28 novels. Very soon, it's now March of 2003, doing this recording, if I can plug something real fast. At the end of the month, my brother and I, my brother Mark Dennion, who's also a novelist, will have our first crossover coming out with his highly successful, it's told him it's a dumb name, but what do I know, his Whale Shark book series. We'll be crossing over with my Carcharodon book series at Raventail, and we're just having a blast writing it. I've written with many other friends in the past. It's really a pleasure to write a story with my brother, and Tyler, hopefully in the future you and I are doing a story together. It's definitely on my list.
If only my neural divergency will let me write one fucking novel at a time.
We'll get there, my friend.
That's not a joke. I'm really mad at myself sometimes.
You'll get there. I have faith in you. But thank you for having me today. I hope that your fans enjoyed this conversation. I hope that they have some cool monsters or thoughts about the monsters we suggested and what we can see there. I'll definitely be looking at the comments to see that. And again, a shout out to the students at the Burlington County Special Services School for helping me pare this list down a little bit. Thank you guys so much.
Oh yeah, major props to your students. That was very cool of them to come up with the list. And you attract some people. When Matt Dennion shows up on my channel, people come and watch. At least the Kaiju fanatics.
Oh, I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.